Hey, I'm Lauren, and I've got a quick tutorial for you to help you out if you struggle with flamenco grip. You might also know it as a twisted grip or a reverse grip. So I got a question the other day from somebody who was asking whether or not this skill is something that everybody is going to be able to do. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of making blanket statements like that because you don't know. Aerial pole, these are hard things, and everybody's body is going to have different limitations. This skill in particular, I feel like, while relatively basic, can be inaccessible because we've got some weird things going on. So if you're unfamiliar with the term flamenco, twisted, reverse, it's when we are grabbing the pole like this. We call it flamenco grip because it's kind of like if you were going ole. I think that if you were just looking at what I just did with the pole, you could see how there might be some major limitations going on depending on what's going on with your body. So the things to consider are your wrist mobility in this direction, which would be adduction. We also have pronation, so this rotation that's happening from the elbow. And we've got a fair amount of internal rotation going on in the shoulder. So the combination of those three things, if you are limited in any of those positions, then this might not be a skill for you. I feel like I see more people who have issues with wrist mobility, not being able to do this skill than anything else, but that is 100% just my casual observation. So any of those limitations, wrist, elbow, or shoulder, might be holding you back from being able to do this skill comfortably or at all. Nobody is going to be able to do everything, and that's okay. However, I feel like this skill is often not introduced particularly well. And there's some details about how you set up for it that can make a huge difference in being able to accomplish it. So I'm going to talk about some drills that I use in class that will hopefully help you determine whether or not this is a skill for you or no. So for the first drill, I like to use a yoga block and a hand weight. I'm going to use them separately, but they're going to give me different feedback about what my body is doing, and both are super valuable. So I'm going to start with the yoga block. I'm going to stand with my feet wider than my shoulders, and I'm going to put the block on my palm with my palm flat. So it's like I'm holding a tray, and I'm lifting that tray all the way up. So my arm is straight up over my shoulder. My free hand is going to come and rest on the leg that is close to it. And then I'm going to look up at the block, and I'm going to slide my hand down my leg, keeping the block balanced above my shoulder. So that's step one, and it's just helping us figure out what it feels like to keep this arm straight up and down, right? Because if my arm starts to deviate, I'm gonna lose the block. So I've got my arm up there, my hand staying flat, the block staying up, and I slide down, looking at the block, and I push back up. Now, I'm going to point out something important that I was doing with my shoulder. Notice how as I lean over, my arm starts to rotate. So my fingertips start to point that way. And as I come back up, my fingertips rotate to point behind me. So what's happening in my shoulder joint is that as I lean over, I need to create internal rotation in order to keep my arm going straight up. And as I stand back up, I externally rotate. Exercise the second is the same thing, only now I'm going to hold a weight. The heavier the weight, the harder it's going to be. So this is a little bit more of a strength and mobility drill, whereas the first drill was a little bit more of patterning and understanding what you're doing. Now that we understand the movement that we're trying to make, we're going to add a little load to it, which is going to help us get stronger and a little more connected in these weird end range positions that we're trying to find. So my arm goes straight up, I look up at it, and now I've got this weight, so I can think about resisting the weight a little bit more. So I'm going to push up like I'm trying to push the weight to the ceiling, and then as I lean over, looking at the weight as I go, my hand sliding down, I'm going to try to keep pushing it up so that I'm staying active. When I go back up, I'm thinking about leading by reaching my arm up towards the ceiling, as opposed to if I was being more passive. As I lean over, my shoulders starting to kind of crunch in, and this might feel like pinchy and bad in the neck, as opposed to if I'm thinking about that reach, I've got space, I'm not getting neck compression, and I feel like I'm a lot more in control. So our next drill is going to be with a stretchy band of some sort, anchored preferably higher than your head, but really shoulder height or above is fine. I'm using my skinny pull-up band, but you could use literally anything that just has a little bit of give, right? The lighter it is, the more it's going to help you with patterning. The heavier it is, the more that it's going to help you with strength and mobility. So I'm going to hold the band and I just loop it around my wrist. But again, do whatever works for you. And I'm going to turn away. As I turn away, my arm's going to internally rotate. So I'm turning my palm over. And then I'm going to reach my arm around, bending my elbow and reaching it forward. And then my arm goes back. Notice how when my arm goes back, my head drops down a little bit. And I circle around. So this is a little more of the type of pathway that we might be taking our arm through while we're using our flamenco grip on the apparatus. Head down when my arm is behind me. Head up when my arm is in front. So now, when we go to use our flamenco grip on our apparatus, usually the apparatus is pretty rigid, right? We're in a foot lock, we're weighted on the bottom of our trapeze or sling, or whatever it is that you're doing, you've got a lot of tension in the pole of the apparatus, right? Otherwise, it'd be super easy because you'd just be wrapping fabric around your wrist. What's the problem? So once we've got our tensioned apparatus, this internal rotation and leaning over of the body is what I almost always see people struggle with, right? Because they've probably been taught that you just wrap like this, and that sucks. It's really hard to hold on to it this way. So instead, I'm going to take my arm around the apparatus, but instead of just trying to get my hand up there, I'm going to lean over. And as I lean over, I create internal rotation of my shoulder. Once I've dropped my head all the way down, then I can just grab with my hand. Right? So you can think about it like you are trying to drop your head so far and rotate your hand so that your palm is now facing your head, which is also facing the apparatus. And there I can get a nice strong grip. Now, it is entirely possible that you do these drills and that you try grabbing and leaning over, and you're like, oh, that certainly makes it more possible, but still not possible. And you know what? That's okay. Maybe this isn't a skill for you. And there are ways that you can do the exact same transitions that you'd be doing with a flamenco grip without a flamenco grip, and just switching your hands a little bit more. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, drop them down there, shoot me an email, whatever. I'm more than happy to answer them. And if there's some other topic that you have questions about that you would like for me to break down for you, let me know, because I love doing that. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and I'll see you next time.